I don't know, Dad. Honestly, sometimes I can't believe I'm actually your son.
Platt.
I think it's time I told you something I should have told you a long time ago.
Okay.
The secret
Setting.
of my secret
Setting.
soup.
Oh.
Come here. The secret
Setting.
is nothing.
Huh?
You heard me. Nothing. There is no secret.
Setting.
Wait. It's just plain old...
Setting.
You don't add some kind of special...
Setting.
or something?
Don't have to. To make something special, you just have to believe it's special.
There is no secret.
Setting. The secret to Rocket League settings is there is no secret. Yes, some pros like this car design or that car design, but the truth is there's no such thing as perfect pro settings, and anybody who tells you otherwise is lying to you. The only things that do exist are good settings and bad settings. And so today I'm gonna be showing you the optimal settings for ranked Rocket League in 2025. Keyword, optimal. These aren't the only settings, but I'll be showing you good, medium, and bad options on a tier list. This will save you the time and frustration I spent putting over 4,000 hours into this game, switching controls over 3 times, and making all the mistakes myself so you don't have to. I'll be ranking everything from S tier, which is super optimal, down to F tier, complete fail settings. So you can optimize every aspect of your game and know what's worth changing and what's not. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which settings to pay attention to and which don't really matter. If you're new here and unused to my strange sense of humor, I'm Luke. I've personally coached hundreds of players to Grand Champ, and I'm a peak Grand Champ 3 player. That's why I started a company called the GrandChampBootcamp.com. It's now the #1 coaching service in Rocket League, and we help people rank platinum through Champ, just like you watching, get to Grand Champ. I'll have timestamp sections below if you want to shortcut certain parts of the video, or if you can't stand my terrible sense of humor, or you just want the answers immediately, I made a spreadsheet that literally reveals all the optimal ranges for settings and my personal settings. So if you just want to skip the wait and go look at the sheet and just copy, you can go do that. Enjoy. I'll have it first linked down below. Pull those up, and then I'll talk you through why we're doing everything we're doing. Let's get into it. Let's start with the foundation, camera settings. Camera settings determine how you see the game, and the default ones are F tier. Let's fix them so you have good mechanics and awareness on the field at the same time. First setting is field of view. S tier for field of view is 110. This is the maximum setting, and it gives you the widest field of vision possible. Having more information is almost always better in Rocket League, and according to Liquipedia data, 97% of pros use this exact setting. There are very few settings where everybody agrees, so this is kind of non-negotiable. Set it to 110. If you want to go with an A tier FOV, a few pros have moved to slightly lower FOV for a minimal zoom effect. Some think it helps with precision. It's viable, but I don't recommend it unless you're already SSL. At that point, you can start cheating, but if you're plat, just stick to the book. And finally, F tier. Anything below 108 or 109, you're gonna start missing opponents, teammates, and boost pads on the field because it's like playing with blinders on. You're literally seeing less, you're taking in less information, you're gonna play dumber. Okay, let's move on to distance. S tier is 270. This is the perfect middle ground that gives you enough view of the field in front of your car while keeping your car close enough for precise control. Distance literally means how far away the camera is from your car. So 270 is kind of the middle. It's the most common among the pros. A tier is anything in the 260 to 280 range. If you prefer to be a little bit more on your car or a little bit more zoomed out, depending if maybe you're a 1v1 or a 3v3 main, that's okay. Otherwise, you really don't want to fluctuate. Higher distances tend to give you better field awareness, so think 3v3, but lower distances tend to help you more with mechanics and, let's say, freestyling. So if that's your thing, 260 maybe. F tier is anything below 250 or above 290. Both extremes will sabotage your gameplay. Next, height. S tier for height is 100. This is the most common setting. I personally use this setting, and it's become the new standard among pros. I will say, height has been trending downward over the years, so we might see more and more pros shift to the 90 to 100 range, but S tier is still 100. A tier is anything between 90 and 110. Like I said, lower heights give you a more grounded perspective, while higher settings provide a slightly better aerial perspective. This is one of those things where it's more of a Goldilocks zone, so I would recommend sticking to 100 or 90 at the lowest. Finally, F tier is anything below 80 or 110. Either extreme makes consistency difficult. All right, let's talk about angle. S tier is -4. This is the most balanced setting that works whether you're a ones player, a twos player, or a threes player, and I recommend you start here. It gives you good visibility both on the ground and in the air. A tier is anything in the -3 to -5 range. This range is all viable. I personally use -3 since I play more 1v1 and 2v2, and I rarely, if ever, play threes, so I like that zoomed in view. But if you're mainly a 3v3 player, you can go with -4 or -5 to see more of the aerial play. It can be useful. Finally, F tier. Anything above -2 or below -7. Yes, you heard that right, because these are negatives. The idea is try not to go to the extremes. A lot of like platinums and diamonds think they're going to be the first SSL to ever use like -7 angle. But it's like, why? Like, what are we trying to prove here? And before we move into stiffness and the rest of the camera settings, quick pause. If you're watching at this point, you clearly care about improving. And I want to make sure you're not trying to figure this all out alone. I run a free Discord community where you can connect with me, my team of pro coaches, and find teammates fast. Plus, if you want to skip the guesswork, you can just DM us directly and we can get you into one-on-one coaching, or you can join one of our group classes. Just click the first link below to go to Discord and then DM my account, say keyword settings, and we'll show you how you can rank up even faster. I'll see you in the free Discord, and back to stiffness. Let's talk about stiffness, swivel speed, and transition speed. For stiffness, this is going to control how much the camera moves as you speed up. The lower your stiffness, the more your camera will zoom out while you accelerate, which kind of gives you more information during fast plays. I recommend 0.4 to 0.6 because many new pros trend toward the lower end. We're seeing lower stiffnesses appear more and more in the meta. I think Zen uses 0.35 or something in that range. You can correct me in the comments, but the idea is mechanical players seem to like this pretty low, whereas unmechanical players, whatever that means, like it a little bit higher. I would go in that 0.4 to 0.6 area still, but bias lower if you want to feel faster or feel more mechy. For swivel speed, we want to max this out to 10. You want to be able to look around quickly for information gathering, but this setting isn't that consequential. So if for some reason you don't like 10, you can use like 6 or 7, but I think higher is better here. Transition speed is a little bit more preference. So what transition speed does is it's how quickly you transition between ball cam and car cam. So like how quickly the camera moves. And some pros like AppJack have used extremely fast, almost twitchy camera like switch speeds, like close to 1.9, 2.0, but I don't buy that this is incredibly useful because the actual speed change on how quickly your camera cuts is like the difference between like 1/100th of a second and like 5/100th of a second. It's not the biggest deal. The biggest deal is like just where your eyes are going. And some people can find it disorienting. So anything really in the 1.1 to 1.3 works. This one is more preference. So I'll give you kind of free range. Free reign, not range, free reign, free reign. Yeah. Okay, on to part 2, controller settings. Let's talk about what separates good players from great ones, which is mechanics more than anything else these days. And that comes down to controller settings, not as much camera settings. This is probably the most important part of the video, so pay attention closely. This is also where I recently made a big change myself, and I'll explain kind of the update this year that I've made to my controls. It's been kind of crazy, but I'll get to it in a second. Let's start off with controller dead zone. S tier for this setting is 0.05. This is the gold standard for PS4 and PS5 controllers. It's going to give you basically immediate responses while preventing accidental inputs. Almost all top pros that use PS4 have settled on this exact setting. You really want to be low. A tier is anything in the 0.04 to 0.10 range. A little bit less popular, but anything in this range is viable. It's also worth noting that Xbox controllers, which I used to play on, typically need higher dead zones. I remember when I played on 0.10, that felt better. But if you're PS4, 0.05. If you're Xbox, okay, 0.10 is all right. And finally, F tier. Anything above 0.15, regardless of what controller you're on. At this level, your inputs are going to feel significantly delayed, and you're basically going to be playing with input lag baked into your settings, which is, of all games, probably the worst in Rocket League. Okay, dodge dead zone. S tier, 0.70. This setting prevents accidental backflips during fast aerials, and this is like a good starting point. This is like the sort of beginner training wheels, and this is still what I personally use because I find it's nice. But anything A tier is in the 0.6 to 0.8 range. You can get away with lower dodge dead zone as a newbie. It's just newbies tend to accidentally backflip on their fast aerials, and that's the main thing we're solving for when we increase our dodge dead zone. F tier is anything below 0.5 with a big caveat. This is mostly for average players or new players that I'm assuming are watching this settings tutorial. If you're a high ranked player, you can definitely get away with a low dodge dead zone just because you'll have such good muscle memory that you shouldn't really accidentally backflip. Let's go on to steering sensitivity. S tier, 1.2 to 1.4 is the most common steering sensitivity. Most players play in this range because it allows for quick adjustments without turning too fast. You kind of want to think about it like sensitivity on a mouse. You want it to be sensitive, but not jittery. And most pros like 1.2 to 1.4. Now, some pros go as far as 1.0 to 1.6. That's kind of A tier range. And what I've noticed is that higher ranks can benefit more from high settings, while low ranks can benefit from slower, more controlled settings. For this reason, I would suggest A tier or B tier is anything between 1.0 and 1.6. This isn't game breaking, so kind of find what you like. The only thing that I would put in F tier for sensitivity is anything above 2.0. You go above 2.0, you look on Wikipedia, you look at what the pros are using, you're going to find 5, maybe 10% of pros using this high steering sensitivity. That doesn't mean there aren't pros that use this steering sensitivity, and I actually use this sensitivity only because for 3 years I played on Rizzo's controls, which I'll explain in a second, but do as I say, not as I do in this sense. On to part 3, controller bindings. Oh, I'm recording back-to-back scripts. Guys, this is actually the most important section of the video when it comes to mechanics. It's controller bindings. I hope you forgive me. Controller bindings. This is where most players get it wrong, and it's the area where it's most costly, right? Because I did this 3 times, okay? I had bad controller settings. I'm gonna walk you through all the bad settings binds I've made and where you can make the biggest changes so that way you're good, you're 2025 proof, and hopefully 2030 proof when it comes to Rocket League. Let's talk about acceleration and deceleration. S tier is putting this on the back of your controller, which is actually the default binds. R2 or RT for gas, L2 or LT for brake, most common settings. This is the standard setup used by virtually all pros, and for some reason I thought I was smarter than the rest, okay? I put drive on my joystick. Like I would go like this to drive, right? And the problem with that is when you bind drive to your joystick, now both steer left and steer right and drive are the same button, which, guess what? When you put multiple important controls on one input, it reduces your flexibility. And that turned out it was preventing me from doing controlled dribbles when I was low boost, which sucked. So this setting I actually changed. I switched off Rizzo's controls about 60 days ago, and I finally now relearned them. It took me about 60 days, and I feel like I'm at the skill level I was at before. I'm actually above the skill level I was at before, so hopefully SSL soon. A tier, which is a little less popular, is putting driver reverse on R1 or L1. So let's those buttons here. I think this is the Zen method. So as many of you know, a pro player named Zen came onto the scene about 3 years ago. He really burst onto the scene, and he was the first pro to popularize putting your directional air rolls on these buttons, on the triggers. And the reason for that, I explain in depth in my air roll tutorial. And then as far as acceleration or deceleration goes, anything beyond those is a little bit speculative, like using square or circle. Like you're just gonna quickly run out of fingers to be able to do like all this. So like I wouldn't put accelerate or decelerate on the face buttons because these face buttons are going to be mapped to other stuff in a second. So I just wouldn't really experiment with that. If you have paddles, you can maybe use paddles too, but unless you have like a Thrustmaster, eSwap, Gamer, Gunk, whatever other features it has in 2030 controller, then you don't need it. By the way, Thrustmaster, I'm here, I'm just saying. Anyways, what are we talking about? Settings. I gotta figure out where I was at in this script outline. Yes, okay. Next up is boost. So the default boost is circle, but I think S tier is actually gonna be putting it on R1 or L1 for most of you watching. And that's because having boost on a bumper back here lets you boost, jump, and air roll at the same time, and you can kind of just have like a dedicated pointer finger for boost. This is what I use. It's what I recommend. It's what many newer pros use, but A tier is still using default boost. Default boost is totally fine. You just kind of have to fat finger, which is annoying, especially if you have fat fingers like me, and sometimes you'll mess it up. So if you don't want accidental like boost when you don't want, it's probably a little less optimal for new players to do boost on default, but A tier is keeping it default. And finally, F tier is having boost on, I don't really know what else you would have boost on. Like the only thing that would be really bad is if you had like boost bound to like jump. So like you have to, like they're the same buttons. Like don't do that. The only buttons we bind together are air roll and power slide. So we'll move into that next, I guess. When I'm talking about air roll, I mean joystick air roll, normal air roll, free air roll, many different names for it. But having those buttons on one bind is the ideal setup. I do it on R1 because I have boost on L1. And so what's really nice about this is power slide only happens on the ground and air roll only happens in the air. So when I bind it to R1, yes, I'm putting two buttons on one thing, but they don't conflict because they never happen at the same time. In fact, they're kind of synergistic for recoveries. A tier for air roll and power slide is having them anything separate. Like you could have power slide, I guess, on R1 and like free air roll on triangle. It's just slightly less effective because it's like, why wouldn't you bind these to the same button and free up more room on a standard controller? And then finally, F tier is just like not having free air roll bound. I do think that's a mistake for new players. Advanced players, we use free air roll much less, but for new players, I think it's pretty important. It's more intuitive to learn, and it's easier to chain your recoveries at the start. Although the skill ceiling's lower, but the floor is higher. Oh, I just got an excuse to flex. Wait, the floor is higher. Should we shoot this a couple times? Floor, okay. I need to grow up. Let's talk about directional air roll. This is a very common question for new players. Generally speaking, you're going to want to make room on your controller for air roll left and air roll right. Ultimately, you'll need to use both, so make sure you have room, but you want to pick one directional air roll first and master that. The reason is because learning one directional air roll at once already makes you kind of want to give up and think, you know, you're not able to do it, especially if you don't watch my updated 2025 air roll tutorial, shameless plug. But if you try to learn two directional air rolls at the same time, oh my God, like maybe if you're 13 years old, good luck. Is it against YouTube terms of service to be 13 years old? Let's go with 16. If you're 16 years old, feels good to be 16. This just sounds weird, man. You know what they say, once you get enough followers online, you kind of just start, okay, let me not even go down this dark humor route. Point is, you want to learn one directional air roll at a time. I recommend air roll left because that's what I use and that's what all my tutorials are based on, but they're equal opposite. I use air roll left on square, air roll right on circle, just because that's intuitive for me. It's like one's on the left, one's on the right, but pick one, master one, make room on your controller so when you get to that point, you can learn the second. That's my recommendation. Really, S tier, you can put these buttons anywhere. The only F tier option is not binding them in the first place, right? Make sure you have room for this. This is kind of a non-negotiable in 2025 Rocket League, and you're gonna thank yourself later. And before we get into the next section, if these settings are helping, or if you're stuck and you're like, I don't know if I should change this, me and my team can help. I run the #1 coaching service in Rocket League. It's called thegrandchampbootcamp.com with former pros and even world champions on my team. So if you want to work with me and my team, I'd love to take a look at your gameplay, take a look at your controls, answer your questions. We can definitely help. We've seen over 3,000 players come in. We're almost at 4,000 now. And so drop me a DM on Discord. Just send me the keyword set so I know you came from this video and my team will hit you back. We can talk about helping you out. Once again, I'll have my Discord first link below. Just DM my Discord account with the keyword set. We can help you set up your settings and anything else when it comes to ranking up in Rocket League. We got you covered. Okay, moving on to part 4, video settings. These are what affects your game's performance the most, and some of them can make a big difference on your actual input lag and visual clarity with what you see. So it's worth paying attention to. Let's start with display mode. So when you see pros playing competition, they're always playing on the S tier display setting, which is full screen. When you're in competition, full screen gives you the lowest input lag and competitive play. F tier is windowed or borderless, probably in reverse order. Borderless is okay, and windowed is a little worse. Both of these modes are going to add significant input lag, and so you really don't want to use these for competitive play unless you have to. VSync. S tier is just to turn this off. In competitive games, always turn VSync off. It creates massive input lag. It's going to make your game feel sluggish. F tier is having it on. If you have VSync on, input delay Trust me on this one. Even since I was making Minecraft videos when I was 12 years old, I learned this stuff early on, so just trust me. Hopefully Camille's not showing clips of me squeaking when I was 12 years old.
The KS. The amazing KS. Double KS.
Okay, let's talk about FPS limit. S tier is not to match to your monitor's refresh rate. It's actually to set it to the highest rate possible. Now, I was confused about this for a while, actually, because I was working with my pro coach, Shock. He's a coach at the grandchampbootcamp.com. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to disclaim who he is. Obviously, he's a pro coach for us now, but he's actually the season 9 MVP in North America. And we were doing a coaching session. He was like, wait, why is your FPS limit on 240? And I go, I don't know. Somebody in the YouTube comments said you want to match it to your monitor's refresh rate. And he's like, no. You want to max it. Like matching it to your monitor's refresh rate gives you 90% of the gains, 95% of the gains. But even if your monitor can't display the refresh rate, going higher can reduce your input lag. And so it's a big difference. And this is what, why it's so cool to talk to pros, because obviously Shock played on stage at points, right? And so like he knows what his configurations are, his settings are when he sits down on stage, and this stuff matters, right? So if you have 144 hertz or monitor or higher, you can set it to 144. But if you can go higher, that's S tier. A tier is set it to your refresh rate with the caveat that like if you're on a gaming laptop and it's overheating, fine, match it to the PC, whatever your display is. And then finally, F tier is anything below what your monitor can display, because at that point it's like you're literally capping performance for no reason. Let's talk about render quality and effects. So S tier is going to be high quality, low effects. Generally, if we're competitive gamers and we want to rank up, which is what I help you guys do, you want to set your render quality to high for crisp visuals, like crisp pixels, but you want to turn down all the effects, shadows, light shafts, bloom, all that. It doesn't help you play better. If anything, it gets in the way. And finally, interface settings. We have some bonuses, part 5. This is the last category, and it's going to cover, how you see the game's information. A lot of this stuff is new. Nameplate scale, S tier, max it out. Larger nameplates make it easier to spot players at a distance, and you can see the boost meters of teammates with this new update. So more information, generally going to be better in this game, in a decision-making game. Max it out 200%. That's kind of what I recommend everybody does. A tier, you can put this between 100 and 200, although you'd really have to make a case as to why you're doing that. And then in my opinion, F tier is like dropping below 100%. Maybe pros could tell me if they do this or why they do this. I haven't seen it. It makes nameplates too small. Definitely in Plat 2 or like Diamond 2. Anything that helps you look at, the opponents instead of the ball. Good idea. Ball arrow, S tier is going to be on. Always keep the ball arrow enabled. Like it adds useful information about where the ball is located. Like if you're tracking it down off of a backboard read and you have ball cam off, for example. F tier would just be to turn it off because it removes information for no benefit. If I'm missing anything and anything drops after this video, I'll make an updated settings guide. So question is, what's the absolute best settings? If I had to crown like one set of settings, okay, this is the best settings baseline. Like if I had to make the default settings in Rocket League, not the settings for everybody, but the default settings, FOV, 110, distance, 270, height, 100, angle, -4, stiffness, 0.45, dead zone, 0.05 if you're on PS4, 0.10 if you're on Xbox, dodge dead zone, 0.70 to start out, and you can lower if you get better. Steering and aerial sensitivity, 1.2 to start out, and you can increase if you get better. Acceleration, R2, L2. Brake, L2, LT. Boost, R1, RB. Air roll and power slide, L1, LB, or flip those don't really matter. Directional air roll on square and O, and full screen on VSync off, jump on X. Nameplate scale 200%, and camera shake off. I forgot to say camera shake off. Man, like, isn't it crazy that like I have been doing settings guides for 5 years? I can tell you what the best settings are, and yet the default Rocket League settings have not changed since 2016. For the complete tier list, if you want all these ranges broken down and you want to come back to it or share it with a friend, I would really appreciate that. I have it. First link below, free Discord. Pull up the sheet. It has the ranges and it has my settings all consolidated into one sheet. And do me a favor, if you guys made it to this point, one thing I would really appreciate, when people find this video from the search, they search it up, they go, is this settings guide actually good? They read the comments. And so if you could leave a comment and say this worked, maybe you could say something like, I started in Plat 2 and after changing these settings, I was drafted into the pros. Obviously don't say crazy shit, but like genuinely, if anything helped you in this video, let people know. Positive comments I really appreciate. And guess what? Negative comments I also appreciate because they all help the algorithm. So if you think I have a punchable face, I agree. I have a pretty punchable face. Let me know in the comments. As always, drop me a DM on Discord if you want more help from me and my team. I'd love to help you out. Drop me the keyword set if you came from this video, and I'll do something special for you. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye. Summer body's coming, but I got a little bit of fat to lose, guys. Just wait. Just wait for the videos that drop in 2-3 months. You're going to be like, whoo. I'm going to be mogging the camera. I'm going to be like this. Jeez, I got to get off. I didn't mean to say it like that. I got it. Okay, I'm gone.